for being here. We've got Jessica, founder of the Mindful Toolbox, here with us today.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well, thanks. So, first off, how and why the Mindful Toolbox? Tell me a little bit more about it.
The Mindful Toolbox was born from a need in my own childhood. I was a child with really big emotions, and I didn't have any tools to navigate that, and neither did my parents. So, as a kid, that caused me a lot of suffering, a lot of stress and mental health things to navigate. So, when I grew up and as an early adult and found mindfulness, I knew that I needed to share it with children. I knew that children needed access to these tools from a young age so that they would be equipped to navigate the stress that was inevitable in life. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. I think it's so needed, and I wish we had that when we were younger. So, what would you say as far as the way that things have been moving in our industry? I think the emergence of technology, how would you say that has shaped, what would you say you've seen in your work? How is that shaping our kids?
Yeah, but with technology specifically, you mean like screen time and things like that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that children have access to a lot of things coming at them at once. And for both adults and children, that can activate our nervous systems. So I think we're living in a world where our nervous systems can be activated a lot easier and with one touch of a button. And yeah, our nervous system is always meant to be able to flow back and forth between fight or flight and rest and digest, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. And children especially should, deserve to be able to live in this state of play. And then there's so much responsibility in the world now, even for our young ones. So those tools to help them find peace from this young age, I think is so important for their nervous system, especially with everything that's coming at them currently.
Absolutely. I think there's so much stimulation nowadays. And, I think we've almost forgotten this concept of boredom in a way, versus like when we were growing up. But what would you say are some tools that you implement whenever you are working with kids?
Yeah, so something specifically related to what we were just talking about, like this idea of peace and slowing down. Every single class, whether it's a long hour-long class or a short 15 to 20-minute class or my long camps and yoga parties, they always have this concept of what we call comfy cozy time. So children have an opportunity to lay down, and I will often pass out stuffies and place them on their bellies and let them take them on a balloon ride. So as they breathe in, the stuffy goes up, and as they breathe out, the stuffy goes down. So, I'll remind them that there's so much that we have to do, but this is an opportunity that we don't have to do anything. We're not sleeping. It's not necessarily nap time. When we're at the studio, they get to build like comfy, cozy spaces. They'll take pillows and blankets and bolsters and make their own fort. And I'll have parents say like, oh, they came home and they made a fort at home. And now when they get upset, they take themselves into that fort. Like basically this opportunity for peace. We're building these little peace bubbles, these moments for them to know what peace feels like in their day. That's like a tool, a relaxation tool that we use every time. But other tools like breathing tools, balloon breath is one of the biggest ones that I teach the kids. Imagining that there's a balloon in their belly, their lungs, and as they breathe in, that balloon gets big, and as they breathe out, it gets small. So I'll bring the balloon with me, and so it's fun, it's engaging, and then they get to see that visual concept. And I'll bring that in with kids as young as like 1.5 years old. So they understand the balloon gets big, just like our belly does, and then it gets small. And the littles might look at me, funny for a few times, several times, and eventually they'll start doing it. I walk in and they start breathing, and their teachers tell me that they're breathing other times too because they have learned that concept of what their breath is. The balloon breath, I think, is such an important one. I didn't learn what my breath was or that I had connection to it, and it was a tool that could bring me peace until early adulthood. And being able to breathe in order to regulate my emotions and calm my nervous system would have saved me a lot of suffering as a kid. Yeah, we'll do other tools too, like peace begins with me. It's a finger meditation where the thumb touches the pointer finger, then the thumb touches the middle, then the thumb touches the ring, then the thumb touches the pinky, one finger at a time. And they'll say each word as they go. Peace begins with me each finger at a time. I'll have them get really loud and then they go quieter and quieter and quieter and until there's no more sound. And then a lot of times I'll find that they'll sit there for a couple minutes just in total quiet practicing their piece begins with me.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I think it's like this, all these tools kind of are like almost this remembering of it's like this. I guess when I was thinking about what you're talking about, because I think naturally we breathe from our belly when we're babies. You watch a baby breathing, and you see their belly moving. That's the natural state. And then somehow, as we age, or as we get older, as these kids get older, we like take that breath and it goes shallow into our chest. And it's just like, that's kind of that nervous system, the fight or flight. It's like, we start to shallow breathe whenever we're in this like fight or flight response, or when our nervous system is activated. And so I think it's so beautiful that you're helping them remember, helping these kids remember, helping even, adults remember. Like it's this remembering of who we are and who, like, what is actually natural and peaceful and calming, right?
Yeah, I like
Um,
it a lot because I agree. I think that peace is our birthright, and we're all born with it. But sometimes the distractions of the world and the things that mess with our nervous system kind of take that away. And I think that's why teaching mindfulness to children is especially important because if we teach it at that young age, as early as 1.5, then there's not so much this forgetting in the way. It's always gets to stick with that remembering and kind of build those tools of remembering. Sometimes I'll joke, but in seriousness, these kids that I'm teaching have more emotional intelligence than me often because I'm unlearning all of the patterns that I learned first. Whereas if these tools get taught to children first before they learn all the other unhealthy patterns, then it's the way that they naturally go to and they'll learn these healthy coping mechanisms and healthy options for peace from a young age. And I feel really passionate that this is how we change the world.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it is amazing to be able to see that, with everything that's going on in our world, like to be able to actually see, no, we're actually moving the right direction. Like we're actually moving in a positive direction, especially with the way that we're raising the next generation, raising our kids. There's this, I'm sure you've probably seen it, but like the videos out there where we're like a lot of us are unlearning and we're teaching our kids something different. But like the reels where like all these like idioms or like the famous phrases that we were taught as kids, like kids should be seen, you know, and it's like the parents are asking their kids, like kids should be seen, and then like they answer it and loved, or like instead of like seen but not heard, right?
Mm.
And so, like that kind of leads me to my next question. Like, what would you say has been something that's been really working well for you? What's been a little bit more maybe frustrating?
Yeah, I think what's really worked well is so I started this in a small town and everyone has been so open in our town to being able to teach this. So it started as just like a little dream. I was like, I want kids to learn these tools that I learned as a young adult and I want them to learn it early. So it just started as like, I have this desire to teach this to kids. And then it started working, and kids started to actually utilize these tools, and parents were open to the kids being able to learn these tools. I think there was some fear that like it wouldn't make sense, or it was like, oh no, the academics are more important than the emotional intelligence. But having so much parent buy-in and teacher buy-in on board because they see the benefit of it as well, that helping children to be able to regulate their emotions allows children to be able to learn better, allows children to be able to be more functioning humans. It benefits parents because behavior is better supported too. It gives them a tool. Just knowing that parents have so much to teach children already and having an extra support to be able to bring in mindfulness tools, emotional regulation, teaching them to like actually understand their emotions, to apply a tool and to choose behavior that's most supportive for them, I think has I was nervous because it, just came in as a passion for mine and it's worked well to see how accepting parents, teachers, the community has been of wanting to teach and how well this has been able to grow in my town because of that. And then to see the opportunities for growth broader than this too. I have dreams of creating like a digital curriculum of these tools to be able to support more children. So I think that's what's going really well is just the genuine support of the community has had in teaching mindfulness and the success, like the constant feedback from parents and teachers of how well this is working at home and how well that their child is actually applying these tools. And then challenges was the other question. I think the biggest challenge that I'm running into right now is the more that this has grown, the more schools are on board with wanting it in their school and more grades that, hoping that it expands to. And so the school is on board. However, the funding is not as much there. This year, especially, funding has been really decreased. So trying to get creative with how to actually fund this program. So I'm passionate about it. I want the children to have it. The schools want it in there. The teachers are seeing the impact. The parents want it. The kids love it even. But trying to find the funds to be able to make the program sustainable, I think has been the biggest challenge. I'm facing that head on right now and creating a fundraiser in our town to try to create the funds for three programs right now that I'm trying to fund, and the fourth being a scholarship fund for parents who may not be able to afford it too, because it's a passion of mine to be able to make mindfulness accessible to every child, regardless of financial means or home life. So the fundraiser is at the end of February, and I'm just trying to create donations to be able to come in and to be able to create my own funds to keep these programs going in the schools. And it's doing well, so well. We have 2 weeks away and it's raised enough money for one of the programs already.
Amazing. Well, it's just so that, and I'll include it in the show notes so our listeners can find out more about this fundraiser as well. But where can they find it? How can they find it?
Yeah, so at my website, it's the mindfultoolbox.org/donations. So there is a way to just donate directly to this program. You can set up like a monthly donation, $25 a month will just go to support a child's class each month, or it could be larger donations one time as well. You could donate $500 to help support it being within a school altogether. And then locally, I have an event that I'm doing at the end of February. So in Crested Butte, Colorado, at Jerry's Gym, we're going to do a big fundraiser. We'll have food and party and put on a movie and be able to raise awareness. We'll sell things like eye pillows. The kids love those. They'll get comfy cozy and put their eye pillow on to help their body relax. And yeah, just be able to build awareness for the tools that I'm teaching within the school and yeah, how that's hoping to grow.
Amazing. I love that, Jessica. And what do you see? Where do you see this growing or going in the next 6, 12 months, couple of years from now?
Mhm. So I have a few dreams. One is locally, I would like to create a more broad, like brick and mortar space of a family and children's wellness space. So I have my eyes out. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but just looking for the right space that it could be a place where activities are hosted. So I'll still teach my classes, but bring in other practitioners to support both the children and then the parents and then the family as a whole. So I've built a lot of rapport with these families and I've been lucky enough that they have let me into their world and to see how so many parents are burnt out. It's hard to raise children on top of doing your own work, both internally and then the work that needs to show up in the world and running a house. It's hard in society today, and I think helping support parents helps support children. So this wellness space, I dream of having things like sound bowl sessions for the parents and then for the whole family, just different nervous system regulation tools like energy work and bring in different healers to be able to support the whole family. And then also have the space be like an open mindfulness space for teenagers as well to be able to come in and do their homework or have a hangout spot. Our town doesn't really have many places for teenagers to go and not get in trouble. So that's one idea that I'm kind of looking towards, and to be able to build out classes to support children and family more than just the classes that I teach. Yeah, other examples are like I have a friend who does like tea ceremonies, like so with herbs, and be able to offer those to children too, and then to the families. And then the other direction that I see it growing is, like I mentioned earlier, the videos. So, creating a digital curriculum, 2 to 20 minute long videos of these mindfulness tools. So, there'll be short, engaging clips that could ideally be sold to school districts. So, some of the other little challenges that can get run into is that kids are scheduled within school. So there's so much curriculum that they need to teach. So sometimes finding time for me to come in and teach mindfulness can be a barrier because they have a packed schedule. However, sometimes tasks finish early unpredictably. So if they have a 5 minute chunk and there was a video to be able to play, they could put that right on. And then even a child who has their own Chromebook, if they needed to go take a minute, they could go put on those videos. So within school districts, and then selling, more broadly, maybe to insurance companies or other places that could help support family and children. Eventually, I see it kind of growing into an app where there's this idea of all the different videos are an individual tool, and all of us have tools that help support us, and they can be unique, they can be different for each person. So every tool that I teach children isn't going to resonate with every child, but this idea of having our own unique toolbox so they could take that tool and drag and drop it into their toolbox. Currently, I'm making this like visually, these laminated toolboxes where kids can put their tools in. But this idea of it being on an app, then the parents and the teachers can be aware of like, oh, what are this kid's tools that they use? And a child could even take a moment, by themselves and like, okay, what is my toolbox? Let's go look at it. As an adult, I have moments of stress and I forget where all my tools are. I have to call up a friend and be like, what do I do? And they're like, remember, you go to yoga when you're upset. You go for a hike when you're upset. You go on a ski. You do extra meditations. So just be able to provide that extra support to remind children what their tools are and have that visual for both the parents and the kids themselves.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Jessica. Thanks for joining me here on The Ripple Effect with Ray. Just as a reminder, you can find her at the mindfultoolbox.com. So all of that information will be in the show notes. Thanks again, Jessica.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I appreciate it.